Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, and we are doing a Metawatch for the 12th of January, looking at the last couple of weeks because I'm catching up from previous events in December. I'm going to do the standard thing of looking at UK events, then going into some discussion about the wider UK meta, talking about where you can find games, talk about the wider stats and the game that's going on as a whole, and then for subscribers, I'm going to give you a tactical tip, and for patrons, I'm going to answer a patron priority question. So with all that said, let's get straight into it. Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Killteam 40k YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here to help give you the tips and tricks that elevate every part of your Killteam experience. So no matter if you're a casual or a competitive player, there should be something here for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. You can join the Patron, where you get access to members only Discord, patron priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content, and tournament awards. Or if you find yourself buying Killteam goodies or hobby supplies, you can use one of our affiliate links in the description below, or discount codes with Crossfire Games and GG Prints. We're always keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty. Let us know what you think. Once again, thanks for your support, and with all that said, let's get into it. Okie dokie, so I've got 7 events to cover this evening, and I'll get into all of those now. So quite a diverse range of events across the UK. The main thing I'd say is over the festive period there was a lot of more casual events going on, which is pretty awesome to see. But you can see roughly where they've all taken place. There's also some leagues that are ongoing that haven't finished yet, so they're going on in the background, but I don't want to talk about those just yet because they actually haven't concluded. But it's cool to see that basically there's a lot of communities during the festive period saying, right, let's stop chasing the meta. We don't want to be on the Wolf Scouts, we don't want to be on the Canoptic Circle, whatever. We just want to have a chill time and enjoy ourselves rather than chasing that sweat. So that's, again, pretty cool to see. So what I'll do is I'll just start going through these events. I am, as a general sort of rule of thumb, going to probably stop focusing quite so much time on the teams that are obviously going to win events, because I think it's probably a little bit boring for people, and for most people out there, you know, if you're, there's only so much I can say about Canoptic Circle or Wolf Scouts, right? Or the fact that the Wreckers count them quite well. So I don't want to focus on those too much. I want to mainly try and focus on teams that people are taking that are a bit off meta, right? Because they're more interesting. I think it shows a bit more of a skill expression. Last Half Dead did a really cool video talking about how there's not enough skill expression in the game at the moment, and I can kind of agree with that, right? Like I want to see a bit more people taking some cool teams and doing well with them rather than just running the sort of the boring meta chasery sort of stuff. So Brighton did a Christmas anti-meta pick, which is pretty cool. So you can sort of see here in the list of teams that there isn't really any sort of standout absolute smash teams, but there is some familiar names at the top of the winning pack. Starting in third place, we have John Burgess with his Hunterclade, going 19 and 17. I still think Hunterclade are a strong pick. I'm unsure how well they do into the sort of current top meta, but I think they, as they are sort of moved into the sort of declassified realm, are still a pretty good competitive option. And then in joint first place or second place, by the looks of it, based on VP, is Luke Henson with his Scout squad. Now, again, with two scores of 20 is pretty good. In fact, it's a 19 and 21 by Jack O'Neill, so it's very, very close here. Anyway, I'm interested to see how Scout squad are going to be able to adapt. I'm expecting that the next data slate is going to come in and deliver some nerfs to these top teams. But I'm not sure if Scout squad is going to get necessarily any love. If they do, what will that be? How will it help them? And is that actually going to be enough? I think one of the issues that they struggle with a little bit is killing elites. So, you know, just generally, if you've got a whole bunch of shotguns, you probably do 4 hits, you probably do 8 damage, but you're not killing the elite, right? And then your models are exposed and you probably die. So that being said, I think they have some really cool tech with how they can play their tac ops quite well. So I'm interested to see how they play post data slate nerf, because I'm assuming, as I said, that the big hitters are going to get nerfed. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully it's like a seismic nerf and it's due in the next couple of weeks. We'll see. And then in first place is Jack O'Neill with Vespid Stingwings. Vespid, again, I actually think are in an okay position. I think they just struggle a little bit with reliability. Most people talk about them as being like a can you roll 5+ team, and essentially that's kind of it, because the dev wounds that they can hand out is huge. I think the other thing that makes them struggle at the sort of the higher end of games is they are very, very predictable with where they can go, right? So they're not increasing their APL on the fly. They're all going to be essentially moving 6, shooting 2, if you're in cover, that is, or they're using their Asili and that sort of stuff. So when I played against them, that their inability to get around obscurity, these sort of very predictable ranging on them, I think makes it quite difficult for them to do well. But that being said, congratulations to John Burgess, Luke Henson, and Jack O'Neill for their placements in that anti-meta pick. Then there was a Frostbite Friendly, which was up in the Liverpool region, I believe, and taking third place was Billy Thorley with his Blades of Cain, showing the Blades of Cain still have it with two wins and a single loss going there. Ryan Molson, I assume this says friendly, but he's playing Canoptic Circle, so I'm not quite sure how friendly that is. But I can see other people on Wolf Scouts down here as well, so maybe it was a more competitive event than the friendly name actually indicates at first thoughts. Anyway, but Ryan running Canoptic Circle, getting the win there. Ryan's a very, very good player, and on Canoptic Circle, it's not a surprising result to see him doing well. And then Joe Mullin, again, another good player, sort of gone to the World Championships for the UK, running Wrecker Crew this time, and taking the win. Now, again, like currently the meta is broadly what it feels like is Canoptic Circle, submarine teams, predominantly Wolf Scouts, and then Wrecker Crew is a sort of the counter pick to those other two, and they're just duking it out broadly. So congratulations to Billy, Ryan, and Joe for your placements there. Into the Bristol Kill Team January Jostle, we have again Wolf Scouts piloted by Tim Reeves, going 2 wins and a single loss. Walter Rogers with Canoptic Circle going straight 3 wins, and Jethro Gilbert straight 3 wins with Wrecker Crew. What I will say about Walter is he is one of the young players in the community in the UK, and doing really, really well. So one to watch for sure, because he is picking up some significant wins with his Canoptic Circle at the moment. But he's done similar performances with other teams as well. So I personally think this is one to watch for the year, because I reckon he could probably get out to the World Championships, or stands a very good chance to do so. And then Jethro, another solid player running Wrecker Crew, rounding out that top 3. So congratulations to Tim, Walter, and Jethro in BKT down there in Bristol. Cool. So this is the off-meta Kill Team Clash from the Cerberus Presents, and we see like all the teams here are basically your crazy off-meta picks, which is good to see. And I imagine a really fun event for people to get to have some fun with. And in third place, Daniel Christie taking third with Vetguard. Again, like it looks like the first 2 games went pretty well. Last game less well. But hey, we all have those games, right? Like where it doesn't just quite work out for you. But congratulations, Daniel Christie with Vetguard. I think Vetguard are like an interesting place. I think they've got some play. I think the issue is they just have a lot of problematic teams right now that they're struggling to deal with. I think Goremongers are problematic for them. I think Felgore are problematic for them. And then I think you combine that with now sort of Wolf Scouts being able to rapidly pick up double kills, and that kind of thing. And I'm not too sure how well they do broadly into the rest of the meta. Additionally, with the huge blast ranges that you can get on Wreckers, there's a chance that if you position a minor error in positioning can lead to a significant punishment with Vetguard. In second place, Peter, I'm hoping I'm saying this right, Tumulty. Let me know if I got it wrong in the comments. Rocking out the Commandos, going 12, 8 and 16, 3 wins on the bounce, and taking second place. So congratulations there on Peter. And in first place is Paul Mooney with his Farstalker Kinband, doing awesome there as well. I'm not quite sure how he got 22 points. Maybe they were doing a different pack or something. I'm not 100% sure. But congratulations, Paul, for your first place. another Killteam Brighton event a little bit later on in the beginning of the year, I believe. This is a bit more of the I guess sweaty version of the event. Now in third place we can see John Burgess again, this time with stealth suits, going 15, 12 and 10, so 2 wins and a loss, and this is actually a pretty impressive performance with stealth suits. I think personally, I know John's a good player, so I'm not surprised to see him piloting them well, but I think stealth suits are really lacking some of the key tools right now to be able to deal with a lot of the competitive meta. I'm going to talk about it in the global win rates, because I'm going to do a bit of a faction focus on this particular team, and why I think they're not doing too well, and what I think that needs to be changed in order to make them do well in future. Because the other thing that I think is problematic with stealth suits, and I'm seeing some cookies here, is I don't necessarily think that they're a particularly fun team to play or to play against, and I think that's an issue that we have. Talking of teams that aren't fun to play or play against, Luke Kenson gets second place with Canoptic Circle. I'm not going to dwell on Canoptic Circle, but congratulations, Luke, on a very strong performance with that team. More to come in not too long about that. And then Alan Young taking the first place with Wolf Scouts. So congratulations to Alan and Luke for your Wolf Scouts and Canoptic Circle, and congratulations John, your third place with the off-meta pick XV26 Stealth Battlesuits. Really cool to see. Next up is Deadwood, so the Manchester region, and we have again, I believe, kind of like semi-off-meta picks here going on, but not necessarily like entirely. So we still have some of the big bad teams, but we also have quite a lot of variety, which is great to see in a local community. We want a bit of variety going on. In third place, I'm again hoping I say this correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is it either JSEC or Jackek Jukerowicz? I'm absolutely butchering that, I'm sure. But coming in third place, congratulations with Deathwatch. Single loss and then 2 wins on the bounce immediately after that, which is great to see. Deathwatch continuing to be okay, I think, in the current meta. They have the damage to be able to take on the Canoptic Circle, so you can have a reasonably decent game into Canoptic Circle, I think. Against Wolf Scouts, you have to very much skew in towards the shooting abilities, I believe. Currently, you just don't have the melee punch, in my opinion, to be able to take through those -1 attacks, the damage reduction against the attacks, and all that sort of stuff. So I think you have to be very, very careful going into melee against Wolf Scouts, and you have to try and use a shooting prowess instead. Just my personal opinion on that one. But if you're a Deathwatch player with more experience in the Wolf Scouts than me, let me know how you're solving that. But that's personally how I think I would be trying to solve it. Going into that game, so trying to use that sort of double shoot potential to just do the raw damage that you need. And then against Wrecker Crew, that is a rough matchup. I don't actually know how you win as Deathwatch versus Wrecker Crew, because the way they out-activate you, the amount of damage that they can push through is really, really rough. Like, you need to be able to be playing, I think, on ITD or Tomb World and that sort of thing. If you're on open board, it feels very, very rough with the Breaker Boys being able to stage very, very safely behind accessible terrain, and not interact with you until they come out. When they do come out, they're able to hit you with some really big hitting damage, which just gets you the damage reduction. And with the access to Brutal and that kind of thing, they can get around the Aegis. It's a very, very tough matchup. I'm not quite sure how they do well into that one. So I think currently Deathwatch are they're in a weird place where they do well. I say well. They don't necessarily do well into Canoptech. They do average into Canoptech, I think. They can play that matchup. I think they have a non-favourable matchup versus Wolf Scouts, and they have a pretty poor matchup versus Wrecker Crew. And with those being some of the most popular teams out there at the moment, I think that might be what's holding Deathwatch back in the win rates. But I might be wrong on that one, but I think if I was looking to win a tournament, I'm not sure Deathwatch are necessarily the best team to take, but they're definitely not the worst team to take. So they're probably going to get you a solid sort of placing opportunity, like what's happened here with Jackek. I hope I said that right. In second place is Alex Ewart with his Wolf Scouts, a single loss and 2 wins. Congratulations to Alex there for that. And then in first place is Alex Walsh with his Vespid Stingwings, going all 3 wins, showing that just with enough dev wounds you can force through and kill pretty much anyone, which is great to see. I think with Vespid, like I'm interested to see, because again, like if these teams get like removed from the meta, I'm probably being a bit ambitious there. If they get toned down in the next data slate, is that good for Vespid or is that bad for Vespid? Right, like Vespid like being able to do a lot of damage to single targets, so I think they quite enjoy that elite hunting, and with the ability to out activate quite significantly, they can kind of like position so they can get those flying shots off. So I'm not quite sure if Wolf Scouts and Deathwatch and all these sort of teams getting nerfs and Canoptic Circle getting nerfs is good or bad for them. What's your thoughts as Vespid players? Like, are you out there going, hey, this is good, this is bad? I feel like they're doing okay, but just not great, and they're maybe a little bit not reliable enough. But it's good to see a horde and good to see some variety at the top. So congratulations there to Alex Walsh with his performance with Vespid. And then into the Rolling Zeros tournament, which is a London-based team tournament with the Adepts and Aspirants. I believe this is where they try to like have a sort of big variety of new and old players, I want to say. Might be wrong. But anyway, in third place, we have Paolo Marini running Wrecker Crew with a draw and 2 losses. Sorry, 2 losses, 2 wins with Wrecker Crew. So Paolo, by the way, is like a diehard Space Wolves fan, like as far as I'm aware. So it's great to see him like just rocking Wrecker Crew, being like, nah, not playing Space Wolves. I'm going to do something different, and then doing so well with them, which is awesome to see. So congratulations, Paolo, on doing that with the 2 wins and a draw. I talked about Deathwatch already, so I'll just say congratulations to James Ramsey for rocking with Deathwatch, and Kai Wan also rocking Deathwatch. So second place for James and first place for Kai. Finally, we had the UKTC Nottingham event, which is the largest event that we had over this period. It was only a 3-round event. The idea of this was really to have a chilled intro to 2026. It was nice and simple. It was supposed to be a chilled day. The missions were very, very simple. So it was just mission 1, mission 2, mission 3. I was TOing this event, and the idea was essentially, hey, if you're a beginner, you want to get in amongst this this season, and you want to go to the first event of the season, the big event. Let's go do that. Let's learn the game together, and let's try and have a good intro to the game where possible. That's kind of what we were trying to do. Hence the 3 rounds, not 4, and hence it being the most simple missions that you can play, right? Because we wanted to try and, as I said, focus on getting those newer players having a good time, which I think was achieved. A lot of the new players there seemed to have fun, which is what it's all about. And there was also a lot of very, very young players there, which is awesome. That's basically the lifeblood of the community, is getting new players in, particularly young players who can potentially continue playing the game in the future, and just like refresh that player pool. So I'll talk through all the undefeated people because that's probably worth a note. But there's obviously a lot, because without 4 rounds and with so many players, 54 players, it's clearly going to be a lot of players. You're going to see a trend, which is slightly problematic, but here we go. So in 8th place is Ryan Molson with Wrecker Crew, so switching off Canoptech into Wrecker Crew, getting a win, a draw and a win. The draw was against Jack O'Neill, running Chaos Cult from Killteam Brighton, who also got 2 wins and a draw. So congratulations to Ryan and Jack for going undefeated and having your draws against each other. And then we have Tom Clay running Wrecker Crew, going 3 straight wins, and Tommy Knipe running Wrecker Crew as well. So Tommy Knipe is the best performing, not true actually, sorry, one of the best performing young blood players of the event. And as an under 18, absolutely going and crushing it with Wrecker Crew against a very difficult field, I think is something worthy of note. In 4th place is Elliot Rushton, rocking Canoptic Circle. He also won the best overall, so that's a combination score of sportsmanship, gameplay performance, and painting votes. So congratulations to Elliot for being able to crush all of those things, and also meaning your opponent had a good time when playing against your Canoptic Circle, which is kind of a big win, right? In 3rd place, was Walter Rogers. So I talked previously about Walter. So again, one of those under 18s that I think you want to be on the horizon for, because again, going undefeated with 3 wins with Canoptic Circle at a big event and all that sort of stuff is very impressive. So congratulations to Walter for being the best performing under 18 and best performing young blood during the NOTS UKTC event. In second place was Luke Henson with his Canoptic Circle. Again, showing that Canoptic Circle are pretty dominant there. And in first place is Anthony Dunn, getting the golden ticket with Canoptic Circle as well. Now, clearly, this is a bit problematic because we have 4 Canoptic Circle in the top. Then we have essentially 3 Wrecker Crew within the undefeated. But we do have Jack O'Neill running Chaos Cult as a refreshing change to the current meta. I think that's good to see. So, like, I think as much as, I don't want to take away from the success of any of these people, right? Like, I think that's, taking Wrecker Crew and doing so well with them, taking Canoptic Circle and doing so well with them is absolutely something that you should be proud of. But I do want to try and say to people, like, I think it's more interesting when we see these variety of teams, right? So if you're a competitive player and you want to challenge yourself and you want to try and find something that's new and interesting to do, I think changing that up and going, okay, like, I've sort of solved Canoptic Circle now, move on to something new, right? And I think one of the reasons why I think I like team tournaments so much, and why I think team tournaments upcoming are going to be a really good thing for the community, is because it it forces these things to go away, right? So, you need to have a variety of teams under your belt so that you can flex and adapt to a data slate. So, if you're just rocking Canoptech at the moment, and you're like I've locked in with Canoptech and I'm absolutely nailing it, then when Canoptech gets nerfed, and they will get nerfed, you need to be able to pick up and move on to something new, right? And you need to find an archetype that works for you. And one of the lessons that I found from the team tournament was having an archetype that you can flex into is probably better than just having a single team that you can play well. So I think diversity is really, really important. But I want to say congratulations to all 8 of those players. Clearly, they all went undefeated and they did a great job. But I just wanted to say particular congratulations to Jack for breaking the mold and taking a team that is potentially a little bit harder to play and still doing and performing really well out there. And I wanted to just do another shout out to the young bloods. It is a big thing for an under 18 to come to a huge tournament of that scale and absolutely crush it. And they're great sportsmen. They're great at the game. Like they're fun to play against. Like, that is exactly what we want in the community, and it's great to see that they have that in spades. And there was a whole bunch of young new players coming and playing the game, and that is exactly what we want to see. So congratulations to those individuals. If that interests you and you want to get in and be involved in any of the upcoming Killteam events, there is a whole bunch of upcoming Killteam events that you can get involved in the UK. You can find them by going to talkify.com/Killteam events. For that pinboard or whatever you want to, however you want to view it, and essentially it's all in the description as well below. You can have a look below to find it nice and easily there. But as you can see here, we've got Brighton are running one on the 17th. I'm hoping to go to that next weekend. Killteam up in Edinburgh is running a tournament the weekend after. There's actually 3 events on the same day, but they're all over the sort of the place. There's one in Liverpool, there's one in Bristol, and there's one in London on the 31st. And then into February, you've got Yorkshire Killteam, you've got Venator hosting one in Coventry. There's another one going on at the end of February in Manchester for the UKTC, and whereabouts Kent is another one. So they're all over the place, right? In fact, there's almost too many for me to talk about all of them. So the best way for you to find them is to go onto here, look at these events and find them, and then be able to buy your tickets and get involved, right? Because we want to try and sell out as many of these events as possible, and hopefully get more people playing more competitive Killteam, which is what it's all about. I think that is it for the UK roundup. So if I miss your event, please let me know in the comments below. Hopefully I've covered all of them, and hopefully I've sort of given it enough to talk about without dragging it out too much, because there's a lot of events there, and a lot of the top places were similar in the meta. Cool. So next up, we're going to talk about the wider meta win rates. So again, this is for quarter 4 of the global results, 3 rounds or greater, and it's all the classified teams only. So unsurprisingly, we've got Wolf Scouts remain their top spot with a 63% win rate and a 23% placing rate, which is really, really impressive. And yeah, quite problematic. I think I've already hashed this out. So my personal opinion on Wolf Scouts, and this is a discussion point I think is probably an interesting one for us to talk about. I think elite teams need to be harder to play, and outside of changing with the approved ops how the core rules work, or not the core rules, but the competitive rules work, so going to like 5 objectives or something like this, I think in the interim their rules just need to be made harder for everyone to be able to interact better with them. So I think Wolf Scouts need to be aggressive and fast, and they need to be killy and fast, but they don't need to be defensive. So I think making all of their abilities only work when they're fighting. I think making their piercing reduction only work when you're in the storm. I think reducing the size of the storm. I think all of those changes would be really good. So I think I do think that they need to be hit with almost all of those changes. It's difficult to predict in the sort of, like what's the meta going to look like in however long and all that sort of stuff. But as it stands, I think Wolf Scouts they're just too hard to crack if you're a melee team, and they're too hard to crack if you're a shooting team, and their breakpoints really difficult to interact with, and it's all a bit too much. Whereas I think if it's all to do with when they're fighting, then you know that when a Wolf Scout charges you, he's probably going to kill you, but you also know when you charge a Wolf Scout, you're probably going to kill the Wolf Scout. Whereas at the moment, if you charge the Wolf Scout, you die, and when he charges you, you die. If you shoot him, you're unlikely to kill him, and if he shoots you, he's likely to kill you. So like that's too much on both sides, and the fact that only the top teams can really deal with them is concerning. So I think for me, that's what I would like to see happen. Is all of their buffs become offensive only, remove all the retaliating stuff, make it so their piercing reduction is only when they're in the storm, reduce the size of the storm by at least like 50%, I think, make it down to 3 inches. The other cool idea I had was like this growing storm, but I think it's just too much of a rules rewrite to be able to actually but like it just changes the way it works. Whereas just actually saying, yeah, it's going to be much smaller, I think is better. But like my question to the audience is, how would you make Wolf Scouts harder to play? Like that's the bit I think would be interesting, is like how do you make it so that they can keep their strength, but you have to have like more skill to use it, right? And that's where I think reducing the storm is really important. Maybe make it even 2 inches, I don't know. So you have to make more decisions with it, and positioning becomes more important, that sort of stuff. But how do you achieve that with Wolf Scouts? Canoptech remaining in second place, 60% win rate, 22% placing rate. These guys are pretty problematic, and only the top teams can really compete with them. I'm kind of in the mindset of it. I've never really said that any team should be nuked, but like I think them being nuked would not be bad for the game, which is probably like a really bad way to look at it. Okay, but like at the moment, they're just it's all, again, it's too much. It's too much durability, and they're just too good at being able to do all the things that they want to do. The Warriors are way too impactful for what should be just essentially disposable troops, right? But they're disposable troops that are really fast, and they have 3 APL really easily, and they can play the mission well, and they can score you flank, and they can do all these sorts of stuff. And I think all those things combined are just are a lot for these for this team. So I would like, again, it's like what would be good for the game. So if the Warriors like lose an inch in movement, they become slower, maybe they don't get the benefits. I think maybe the matrix itself is too powerful. Do you just go down to accurate 1? I think the fact they can be accurate too with their melee as well is really gross. I think the Warriors' weapons are probably slightly too strong, and the explosion on death is too much. So if you're a melee team, like the fact that you go in, they're accurate too. So unless you have double parry or something like that, which most people don't, then they're going to hit you, and then they're going to explode, and you can potentially be taking, like where it is 6 damage or something on the way out before you've even, like, just by killing a model. Feels like it's too much for all of these teams to deal with. So I think hitting all of those elements is probably what you should do. I think, again, I would like to see them become like harder to play. So again, like, how do you make Canoptek harder to play? Like, do you make it so that the commands are more restrictive? Do you make it so that the teleports are more restrictive? Like, how do you make it so that the team has a greater skill expression within it? And I think part of that is probably making it so that you can't just throw warriors away for free and get away with it. Maybe. Mandrakes in third place, 58% win rate, 22.6% to 23% placing rate, doing the same as Wolf Scouts. Again, just a little too strong. Like, I think they are a team that is hard to play. They are fragile, which is good. So they already have that sort of like skill expression. So they're probably just a bit too strong into the current meta. And I personally think, like, the leader's abilities combined with the Dirge Maul's abilities, and they kind of have no counter, right? Like, you can just sort of throw your leader in there, and it's a casino machine where you can stop your opponent from being able to activate, and it just ruins their plans. Combined with this sort of ability to say that guy's not able to buff his APL and he's going to be wounded and all that sort of stuff, like, I think it's just a bit too much. So, like, giving that some counterplay would be interesting. But I don't know what else you can do with Mandrakes, because I feel like it's their Soul Strike ability that's like really strong into the elite meta, and that's like a core part of their identity, right? So I don't think you can change that, or not very easily. So it's like, how do you make the rest of it change? And maybe that's a tougher sell. But the fact they all have power weapons as well is pretty difficult. So yeah, but again, Mandrakes doing well, but they are a harder team to play. Felgore doing particularly well again with 55% win rate and a 17% placing rate, and then Brew Brothers coming up in fifth place with a 53% win rate and a 19% placing rate. So those are the top 5, and I'm going to talk a bit more about Felgore in a second. Because someone asked me to do a sort of deep dive on Felgore. I think that's only fair ones to do. But looking at the bottom 5 of the underperforming teams, you have Hyrotech really not doing very well at all. So the opposite end of the spectrum, a team that went from absolute hero class down to zero class is Hyrotech, and I think that's partly because not many people were playing them, and also it's that double nerf on the kill grade. Which is probably hurting them. So that's something that I can see them getting reverted a little bit, and they'll come back up into competitive play, I'm sure. And maybe it gives an alternative for the Necron players who have, if Canoptek get nerfed and Hyrotech get buffed in some way, maybe they'll flip back round. Maybe they both land directly in the 50%. That'd be nice to see. Battleclade coming in with a 35% win rate and a 5% placement rate. So again, not doing great. I think they're in need of some love. But that being said, I was speaking to some of the Canadian dudes. For those who know him, I won't name, but anyway, he's been doing particularly well with Battleclade. So I think there might be some secret sauce there into some of the current meta. I think they're particularly got to play into Wolf Scouts, but they do not enjoy the sort of the Mandrakes matchup, which I 100% can see. So it's kind of like this is the classic: can you dodge the right matchups to be able to get the right things in the right place to be able to fight the right players? I think maybe too much of the field is just bad for them at the moment, but we'll see with them. Scouts remaining again pretty weak, 35% or 36% win rate with a 5% placement rate. I talked earlier about scouts, and I sort of said I just feel like they don't have good stuff into the current meta, and so and this also comes onto Jaegers. So one of the suggestions that people have said locally is like the ammo type that Exaction get to be able to get essentially piercing 1 against saves of 3 up as an equipment option might be a good thing for a lot of these sort of like shotgun teams. And I'm not against it. Like I think maybe that is a way to give them more punch against the particularly difficult targets without making them too strong against everything else, right? Because like if you give scouts piercing 1 shotguns against like 4 up saves and stuff, oh my god, like against elves they're just going to absolutely butcher them. But if you give them piercing 1 against like the Marines, well actually that makes them quite scary, because being able to do 12 damage vice 8 damage is quite a lot, and potentially you get if they fluff their saves, you can just one shot someone, is scary, right? But is that like the best way to solve scouts is probably the question. But I don't hate it. Like I quite like that sort of mentality of targeted buffs, because if Jaegers are struggling against elites and scouts struggling against elites, whatever, like how do you force that so that they have the tools but they don't then bust the game in other ways, right? Because as I said, if you just gave them piercing 1 shotguns, or like it'd be like once per turning point, twice per turning point, whatever, but then you go into like say Blades of Cain and you're now rocking up with a hitting on 2 ceaseless piercing 1 shotgun. No, that's disgusting. Like we don't need that in the game either. So so maybe that 3 up like against those sort of like 3+ saves is a good way of tailoring those weapon options to be able to do a bit more. And you can make it once per turning point or twice per turning point, to have that sort of dialer strength as required. Salvagers, 41% win rate with a 8% placing rate, so a little higher on the placing rate. So there is an ability in there to be able to do a bit better with this team, but you really got to know what you're doing. I think that for me, it's the movement speed is particularly punishing, and you have to be able to get close to people to be able to use approximate firepower, to be able to get the accuracy buffs to mean you kill them reliably, and that often can put you into an exposed position, because to be able to achieve all of those criteria, you have to move a long way forwards, which then means you're potentially able to be killed quite easily. And then Blades of Cain down at 42% win rate and a 6% placing rate. So again, like this is where I am surprised to see how far Blades of Cain have fallen, and I can only expect that it's probably because of Wolf Scouts, in my opinion. We talked about how Scouts having a piercing 1 like 4/4 weapon would be too strong into that particular matchup, and essentially Wolf Scouts have that everywhere, right? So they have the 4/5 melee weapons, they have the 4/5 plasma pistols, so they're very, very easy to get double kills. So if you're not careful with your positioning on Blades of Cain, or you use your Just a Scratch in the wrong place, then suddenly it can very, very rapidly you're getting double kills against you. So I think in this current meta, they're probably not enjoying what's out there. So we're going to have a bit of a deep dive. First one's going to be Felgore. So into the matchups on the settings here. So again, I didn't say this at the start because I just rolled straight into it, didn't I? This is obviously the Pretentious Plastic Ops stats, very, very kindly provided by Smiles, Lies and Gunfire, who does a fantastic job basically compiling the data every week to be able to mean that you guys get the best information that you can see all here. But one of the things you can do is you can go into matchups, right? And you can type in the team that you want, choose what matchups you want to look at by looking at all of them in this particular instance, and it just gives you a breakdown based on the total games that faction has played. So Felgore have had 277 total games in classified events with 3 rounds or greater, and it shows you the breakdown of how they perform. So this is where I think if you're looking at like where is a team problematic, and because I believe Felgore are problematic, but that is just the world according to Ryan, not according to necessarily everyone else, right? So opinions vary, but 55% win rate. So they are just at the higher end, not crazy high, not doing anything too mental, but they do have some really strong performances into a lot of teams here. So into Exaction, they're 100% win rate. Into Farstalkers, 100% win rate. with 4 games played, Hand of the Archon, 100% win rate, Hierotech, Inquisition, and Scouts. So there's a lot of games there where they're not dropping any. Into Goremongers, they're on an 82% win rate, which is interesting because I remember when these teams first came out, I think everyone sort of said Goremongers will be very, very good against, or they are just the better version of Felgore. And I said, I don't think they are. Like, I think Felgore play against Goremongers better, and if you play it correctly by essentially charging, not fighting, but using your mortal wounds, you can chew through all of their Gore tank abilities, force them to heal. When they've healed, they're not able to then fight properly, and there's a chance that they whiff a melee, and you kill them, and you outnumber them. So a combination of being out-activated with the fact they're going to do more wounds damage to you, or sort of just damage outside of the fight action, meaning that when you then fight them, you take more damage, I think means that it's a favourable matchup. And the stats seem to suggest that the majority, well, there's 11 games have been played, and the majority of the players have solved that into a way which is very favourable for the Felgore. Breaches 75, Battleclade 75, Blades of Cain 73, Aquilins 66, Brew Brothers 66, Canoptech 54, so doing quite well against Canoptech, which is interesting to see. And the one I am surprised about actually is that they do quite so well against Deathwatch as well, with 53.75% win rate against Deathwatch with 40 games played. Now, this is where it starts to struggle for them, and for me, it's the teams I think are probably more obvious. So they are not good against Chaos Cult, they're not good against Nemesis Claw or Plague Marines. I am shocked to see Stealth Suits on there, but I guess maybe the ability just to constantly fall back and hide on advantages and that sort of stuff works well. Not 100% sure on that one. Mandrakes has a lot of lethal 5 and fight first, and the ability to sort of threat range really well against them and score flank and that sort of stuff without engaging, but it's probably quite good for them. Wolf Scouts, they clearly do not enjoy playing against. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but with a 44% win rate. And then Raveners rocking a 47% win rate there. So you can sort of see like that there are some outliers that I wasn't expecting. So Rattlings, for instance, 6 games played and only 2 wins against Rattlings. And Stealth Suits, I wasn't really expecting that one either. But with the teams that are able to actually do the bullying in melee, this team really struggles to be able to deal with. So if you're playing Felgore, you need to have an answer to like how you're going to deal with a melee-based team and these sort of elite-based teams. But it seems like if you have a very strong melee, or you have a way of being able to avoid melee, and I assume that's kind of what the Rattlings are doing with their Bullgrins and their sort of trip mines and all that sort of stuff, then you're going to be able to you're going to struggle. And so this is what I mean by like a problematic polarizing team, is that essentially if you're a shooting horde, this team can just bully you, and they can bully you really, really effectively with a very, very favourable matchup. And then if you're a melee team, they're going to struggle a lot against you. So that's my Felgore deep dive. How do you solve that? I think shooting teams need to have a better, more reliable way of being able to remove these models. I think the way Frenzy works and interacts with crits should probably be looked at. I think you shouldn't need a crit when shooting to remove someone. You should just be able to resolve 2 normals. And then I think that would help a lot of these teams be able to kill them. And then I think you probably need to buff Felgore in different ways. So maybe you make them be able to do more damage in melee, or be able to get around some of the sort of the damage reduction stuff that they have here. So like, it's kind of like giveth and taketh, right? Like figure out like what in like why does Inquisition struggle so much and Exaction struggle so much, and all these sorts of things. Why are all these teams struggling so much? And why are Goremongers unable to punch through and kill these guys when really that should be a favourable matchup for them, right? Because the rest of the melee teams are able to do well. It's telling to me that I think Goremongers don't do enough damage in melee, and that you can play around that with Felgore. Okay, that is the Felgore deep dive. I was just going to quickly touch on Stealth Suits as well, because I think it's interesting, and I think it's worthy of note. They're on a 43.6% win rate. They do have some decent matchups. You can sort of see that they be doing okay versus Plague Marines. I think that's partly because they can fusion people repeatedly. Weirdly doing okay versus Chaos Cult. I am surprised to see that. And then a lot of the other sort of teams that I'm like surprised that they do so well against, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Vespid, the 62% win rate. Like if you're able to essentially not be shot, and Vespid's main thing is sort of shooting you, then it makes sense that you can hide a long way away and then potentially be able to kill people. But like what's I guess more interesting is the fact that they have so many teams that is not doing very well against at all. And like against Mandrakes, they played 11 games, and they've won like none of them. Against Wolf Scouts, they played 41 games and they've only won 11 and they've lost 28. And this team was supposed to be played or balanced against each other. And I think that to me says that they are not. So my issue with stealth suits is I think the rules that they have tries to force an uninteractive game, which is kind of boring. And then if you mess up, that you have to spend a lot of effort, a lot of brain power, a lot of thought process to force the game to be uninteractive, so that you can maybe win by a small amount. And actually, like that's. But if you make a mistake, you lose. And actually, I think that's not a fun experience, because if you're playing it well as stealth suits, your opponent isn't interacting with you. When they charge you, you fall back and you don't get shot. When they shoot you, you react either in a way which is you're making their shot do nothing, or you are not being shot in the first place. And therefore, it's always this sort of thing of, we're not going to have a trading game here, So I think that, like, for me, that uninteractive game isn't good for either player. And I think they should be made to be more aggressive and more damage dealing at the cost of some of their defensive ability. So on the damage dealing front, Koyon is very easy to play around, right? Like it's if you don't go and run towards them, and some teams don't need to, then you're not going to be able to interact with their faction rule, and therefore they're not going to have the damage buffs to be able to interact with you back. So I feel like what would be interesting for me is to see Koyon, rather than be like measured on a table and range based, if you do it turn based. So if turning point 2, Koyon became accurate 1, and turning point 3 it became accurate 2, and turning point 4 it became accurate 3, then I think that's an interesting like mechanic to be able to force people to say, okay, if I slow play against stealth suits, they're going to get more killy against me. And I think that would be interesting. I think then maybe you have methods of increasing their killing potential. So the marker drone at the moment pretty much just collects has its ability to be a drone removed for a turning point. It collects retrieval on your home objective. It flies up to advantage, and it just looks appeal for the rest of the game. And when you only got like 7-8 models on the table, whatever, or 7 models on the table, one of the models just not essentially having any rules or interaction with the game is really boring. So I think that model should be able to do an action to be able to either stun someone, remove someone's obscurity, hand out like a marker light token which gives them balanced, or gives ceaseless, or places an ambush token for free, or does something, right? Like gives someone lethal 5, whatever it is. Like it should have an additional rule that's going to mean that it's interesting and impactful, rather than just saying, hey, here's severe against people that are a valid target. Because at the moment it doesn't do much, and I think that's a bit of a miss for the, like, when you have such a limited number of models for the rules of that team. then you need to like, I'm happy to like give all of those different buffs in ways, and maybe you buff up other things as well. And I think it's like one of the things I was thinking about is you should be able to shoot twice if you spend a second AP on your second shot, right? So they're 3 APL team, they're not able to buff their APL, but you know, if you stand and be a turret for a turn, you can shoot twice. Which means then the burst cannons become more interesting and more impactful, because suddenly they can be on advantage, and if they get 2 targets, they can just shoot twice, rather than most of the time not using their APL, because they essentially move, they shoot, and they dash, and that's it. Or they throw a smoke grenade, or they play a mission. But like, move, dash, shoot is pretty much the team, and I think that's not enough for them. And then I think what you do is you make the stealth field go from 3 to 6 inches. And like everyone played like Harlequins back in the day, or I say everyone played back in the day. The old like domino fields where you just couldn't shoot Harlequins or Void Dancers wasn't fun like or interactive. And I think for me, like, that bit needs to be made 6 inches or whatever. Like it needs to be in such a way that you can't just stand on advantage or stand right in the open and just have nothing happen to you, right? Because again, like, the game should be interactive, it should be back and forth, and it should be making decisions. Whereas if you just stood, you know, just in the middle of the board, not being shot, but also not doing anything yourself, like, it doesn't feel good. So that's my underperforming team focus is stealth suits. As I said, they should be giving a big old damage boost and have that stealth field removed. And on Felgore, again, I think the frenzy needs to be looked at for shooting teams to be able to get around it, and then they need to have probably some buffs given back once that's taken away, if that makes sense. So if you're a Felgore player, what buffs would you want to see if you lost that, or what nerfs do you think is better placed? If you're a stealth suit player, am I on the mark? Like, am I completely off and you're saying, actually, I'm having loads of fun just figuring out how to position these models? Or are you saying, like, I just really wish I could just kill some stuff a bit better, and I would happily sacrifice a bit of my survival potential to do that? Or let me know. Cool. That is the catch-up for the week. I think I have covered everything. The last 2 bits is a subscribe benefit and a Patron benefit. So if you're a subscriber to the channel, thank you very much. This tactical tip is for you. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please consider subscribing, and then you can listen to this tactical tip. And that's pretty much the hardest sell that I'm going to give. So let's get straight into it. The tactical tip for this week is plan your CP, right? And that, again, is relatively easy, but I'll try and expand and give some context, because I think it's always useful. But you should go in to each game assuming you're not going to get any bonus CP, right? So you start with 2, you gain 1 per turning point. You essentially then end up with 6 CP as a minimum, but you can get additional CP on turning points 2, 3, and 4 if you go second. Cool. I don't think you should ever plan on that happening, right? Usually, like, you might be forced into a position where you go first in turning points 2 and 3, and then because you've done that, your opponent is then almost guaranteed to win initiative, and they force it the other way, whatever, so that you don't have the opportunity to gain CP. That is, I think, should be your default assumption. Maybe if you've got some faction abilities where you can get more CP, you can roll that in and say, actually, I'm going to play with this much because I know that I'm going to be able to have this much. But generically, the point being is, I think you should plan for the fact that you're going to have the worst case scenario, and then you can then have but if I get this, I can then use this, right? Like, mentality, as opposed to I needed this and I haven't got it. Cool. So work on the assumption of I get 6 CP, and you can create a budget based on that. It varies for every team, right? So your team might be a team where you go, I have to have this ploy up, or I have to have this firefight ploy in this matchup, because if I don't have these things, then I cannot interact, right? So if there is a strat ploy and a firefight ploy that you absolutely must have to be able to win, and you need that every turning point, then you will budget 2 CP per turning point for those things. If you don't use it on, say, turning point 1, then you can say, cool, I've got those two CPs, I can now invest those elsewhere, right? Into different firefight ploys or different strat ploys. But the point, like the thing I'm going to say is, like, think about what is your, like, absolute essentials. Is it something that gives you balanced in shooting, whatever, and you're a shooting team? Like, okay, cool, I must have this, and therefore my CP budget is going to work on the assumption I have this. Work with that, and once you've figured out on each turning point, and you divvy it up. So let's say you go, yep, I'm going to spend 2 CP on turning point 2, 2 CP on turning point 3, and 2 CP on turning point 4. My budget is spent. I will not have any available for CP rerolls. If you then get forced to go second on TP2, whatever, and you get that additional CP, you can then say, actually, I now have +1, and during this turning point, I can spend that, or I can save it for later on. But the way that, like, I think you should look at that is, when you have that CP, is this CP, like, going to change the game, so, like, sufficiently that it makes it worth me not having one of those other abilities later on. So a lot of people, when they do a CP reroll, not too sure if they should do it or not, and they go, I'll do it because whatever, and they go down the CP sinkhole. But, like, you really have to think, okay, well, if that means that I don't have my damage reduction that is critical, or it means that I don't have my rerolls in the next turning point, like, is that worth it? Now, if it's going to, like, kill a Ravener or a Deathwatch Marine, and that Ravener or a Deathwatch Marine hasn't activated yet, and they're going to kill 2 people, and they're going to take an objective, so therefore you're going to lose crit op, you're going to lose kill op, and maybe they've got attack op that's seek and destroy based, and you go, oh, this is worth, like, 6 VP, then yes, it's probably worth the CP reroll, right? Because you getting ceaseless on the next turning point versus 6 VP, well, 6 VP is going to win and determine the game, right? So in that instance, the CP is worth it. But that's kind of like how you have to have that mentality of, is this worth this right now? And I like, if you do that, then you're probably going to be okay. And if you budget correctly at the start of the game, and you get these additional CPs, you're going to be able to do that with less risk, because you know you've got it in your back pocket already. But you can then have that informed thought. So going into the game, you should really know, like, what your rough CP expenditure is going to be from the beginning, and then you have a plan for how you're going to spend it going through the turning point. And a good metric, if you're considering, and this usually happens on, like, turning point 4 for me, when it's for, like, rerolls, is you're trying to determine, you've blown your budget for whatever reason, you had to do the CP reroll because it was a 6-point swing or whatever, and you go, yep, I now don't have the option, so maybe you're now debating if you're going to spend your CP on, let's say, your Deathwatch and its mission tactics, but insert your strategic ploy here, right? So it's giving you rerolls in some format. The question you want to ask yourself is, like, how many rerolls does that give you? And therefore, like, is that worth the CP? So if you look at it and you go, well, I'm going to shoot this guy now, and I'm going to shoot two targets, and therefore they both get the mission tactics benefit, therefore I'm going to get 2 rerolls. But I'm hitting on 3s anyway, and that's the only thing that's going to come up with that ploy. Everyone else is on the wrong mission tactics. No one else is going to fight or do whatever, right? So it's like, the only thing that matters right there and then is, yep, I'm going to be getting these 2 rerolls. Well, you're like, well, I'm hitting on 3s anyway, and most of the time I don't need the reroll. So me needing the likelihood of me needing the reroll for both shooting attacks is pretty low. Whereas me saving the CP for where it matters later on might be more impactful, right? So, like, if it's just, like, 2 rerolls versus, like, none, fine, whatever. But let's say, you know, you look at it and you go, well, actually, I'm about to fire a blast shot into 3 of their guys, and that's 3 rerolls. Then I'm going to charge and fight someone. Well, that's 4 rerolls. well, now suddenly it's worth it, right? So like it's that, okay, well, how many rerolls am I getting for this? And exactly the same thing can be said when it comes to damage reduction, or if it comes to like, I don't know, super conceal, whatever. It's like, am I going to get value out of this right now? And is there any other way for me to be able to get it? And is that worth that CP? And so for me, like the quick way of looking at it is, yeah, this is going to give me this many rerolls versus this many. And if that's important, you can also do it with a maths calculator. You can use Killteam calculator and you go, what is the difference in me being able to do this? But often I found myself getting to those sort of last turning points where I go, actually, I'm going to save it. I roll really well anyway, or I just get lucky and I roll well, or I roll completely garbage and the balance would have made no difference at all. And then I do another action, whatever, but then someone shoots me, and because of the way I roll, I can then save myself with the transhuman or whatever, right? Because I had that CP left. Or I have a shooting benefit and a melee benefit. I'm not sure which one's going to come up. I shoot a guy, I roll well, I kill them, I then charge someone, and I have that CP back up to be able to roll it there. So that's kind of like the way that I look at that CP budget towards the end. If it's a reliability in killing or shooting, you're not too sure which one you're going to use, you can then use that sort of metric to be able to figure it out. Hopefully that all makes sense. Hope that was useful. Basically plan your CP, budget it where appropriate, and budget for the lower amount, and then you have those sort of, these are my win events, and ask yourself that question: does it make a significant change, a sufficient change to the board state, that it's worth the CP investment? And if the answer is yes, then hey, you're good to go. Cool. That is the end of the tactical tip. If you found that useful, please consider dropping us a subscribe, clicking the bell so you get notifications when I drop, all that sort of stuff. It really does help me grow the channel and get this Killteam thing out to more people, which is what it's all about, right? So hopefully that was useful enough for you. Finally, though, I do run a Patron where essentially I put up a post and let patrons ask patron priority questions. I then answer those questions on the channel as a bit of a way of paying back and saying thank you to them, as well as letting them vote for what content comes up next, and giving ad-free videos and all that sort of stuff. So they get all the benefits, access to my Discord and those sort of things. But the main thing is patron priority questions. So this was one of the questions asked by the patrons, which I'll go through now. So again, if you want to ask questions like this and you want me to answer your questions directly, then consider joining the Patreon and you can submit your questions directly to me. Okay, so the question on this one is there any advice for getting the most out of snipers? I've been planting them on advantage and waiting for my opponent to stand out in the open, but unbelievably my opponent is not keen to cooperate with that plan. Essentially, how do I get more out of snipers? So I think for me, this is looking at snipers or any sort of big threat weapon slightly the wrong way. I think snipers are there for aerial denial, right? I think they, most of the time when I play them, they don't get to kill much, or if they do kill, it's because that you're forcing that interaction in a way that people don't want to do it. So Angel Death is a great example. They've got a sniper that can sit on site the entire game. You can stick them on top of advantage. They can ignore obscurity and they can just shoot people all game long, right? Hypothetically. But your opponent knows they're there and they don't necessarily want to be shot by them. So they're going to not move on to another advantage. They're going to hide and conceal. They're not going to move into light terrain so you can seek light and saturate them. Whatever it's going to be, right? So you then start restricting the board area that they can and can't place based on the fact that you have that model in that area. And this is the same with all threats, right? So it helps keep your opponent honest and restrict what they can and can't do. And so I think a lot of people go, well, my sniper didn't shoot anyone, that's really bad. But if that meant that your opponent didn't move on to an objective, then that is like worthwhile. Or maybe it meant that your opponent was forced to take smoke grenades, which meant that they didn't have a different equipment option to be able to use in a way that they wanted to, right? So I think it's almost like changing your perspective on what the sniper's doing for you. So instead of thinking this guy's going to net me a kill, think of it as, okay, this guy is going to lock down this particular avenue, it's going to lock down this particular objective, or it's going to make it harder for an opponent to be able to maneuver in a way in which gives them that freedom to do so. And combine that with the fact that you can then do that initial interaction with a shoot for free, I think is on conceal without being retaliated against is pretty good. So they can be a good trading option when you need to be able to do those sort of, I want to do damage to you, but I don't want to take damage back early. So that's kind of how I think they are best used. And with the dev wounds on them, they can be often good for softening targets or getting like sort of kills through high armor saves and that sort of stuff. But the mentality that I sort of use with it is, I know that if I put a sniper on a certain place, then my opponent is going to have to, avoid using a certain terrain feature that they want to use, or light terrain, whatever, or they're going to have to use smoke grenades there, which then means that I can, if someone's going to use smoke grenades, I can then put a different threat, like a melee threat that's nearby, that can then also double up to between the two of them, make that a more unsolvable problem, right? So the sniper's going to be able to do that range threat, and then the melee guy is going to be able to then move in and do the melee damage. So now they have to commit a effective melee fighter and a smoke grenade to be able to get into this location. So then maybe you put down your melter gun in a certain location, wherever it is, right? So it's like a combination of these threats makes it really difficult for your opponent to be able to solve it. They're also very good on guard, on ITD at getting around people's guard potential. The ability to shoot from silent is really useful. So if your opponent sits in a room, goes on guard, you can open a door and silent shoot them, and then the next turn when you activate again, you can then flip to engage, and the first action you get is to shoot them again, and therefore you can get around that guard potential by using the silent weapon quite well. Again, I recommend just staging just slightly off the door, so you're essentially just within 1 inch of your side, outside 1 inch of your opponent's side, so you can't be charged, and then you can essentially shoot freely, and using your base to the side to be able to shoot through that action. So they're useful on ITD for getting around guard, and they're very good for doing area denial on open board. And that's the mentality that I think about them. So it's going to feel like you're not getting the most out of them, but if your opponent never takes that objective, never takes that shot, never gets into that guard position, they have added value, and you just didn't realise they were adding value. So it's a different way of looking at your operatives. It's like, the fact that your medic is sat next to someone might mean that your opponent doesn't bother to shoot them. Doesn't mean that the medic wasn't useful because he didn't use the revive ability. It meant that the person didn't get shot in the first place, which is even better, right? Arguably. Hopefully that was useful, and hopefully that maybe changes the perspective on snipers. So don't be worried that you're not getting shots. They're doing what they need to do just by being there, by being a threat. That is the end of the Metawatch for the 12th of Jan. As I said, hopefully that was useful for you guys. A bit of a catch-up. There's a lot of events to do at the start. I'm going to try and do a bit more of a focus on the interesting teams that are performing well. I think that's an interesting thing to do, and a bit more of those sort of match-up focused deep dives on specific factions. So more of all that to come. So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, consider dropping a like, subscribe, and a comment. Let me know what you think of the current meta and situation that's going on. What's on your wish list for the balanced data slate? Would you want to think anytime in January? So maybe it's going to release in the next couple of days, or maybe it's going to be in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? But I'm hoping for a big, juicy data slate to start off 2026, so we can get in and have some great new meta games. Is what I am hoping for. So if you're hoping for that as well, let me know in the comments what you are wishing for as your top balanced data slate changes. That is the end of this, so I will catch you all on the next episode. See you later. That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.